Hello, Pet World, and welcome to another edition of Natural Pets TV. I'm Robert Semro, and I am joined by two wonderful pet experts in the naturopath world. That's right, Heidi Nevala and Greg Tilford. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
This is an important topic and something all of us are dealing with on a daily basis, and that is preventing and confronting chronic illnesses and the environment and the impact it has on a daily basis for our pets.
It is very important, and it's something, I take really dear to my heart. It seems so simple, but the truth is, and this isn't just my opinion, this is the opinion of many hundreds of veterinarians I work with, holistic veterinarians that will agree, that probably 80% of all the chronic illness in companion animals is directly related, if not completely caused, by bad human behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And now, what are some of the common things that we're encountering as well as our pets? Because we're all symbiotic in this relationship.
Well, one of the things that is manifesting big time, and it's not just our pets, but in our human children, are endocrine disrupting diseases. The effects of endocrine disrupting chemicals. Endocrine disease, we're seeing also the effects manifesting as autism and all kinds of things that are associated with these exogenous chemicals, meaning chemicals that come from outside of our body in our environment that we could have control over. It starts under the kitchen sink. When I was in my 20s, I roomed with a hazmat guy from LA Fire Department, and he said one of their biggest worries in that job was under the kitchen sink.
Wow.
There's some of the cleaners that are more carcinogenic than the stuff with the big placards you see in trucks with guard cars. I mean, really, there's stuff in our environment that we're putting into our environment, on our lawns, on our carpets, all around the house, that is causing chronic disease, not just in our animals, but in ourselves. And the list goes on. Bad foods, food preservatives, food colorings that have been shown to have toxic effects upon us. And we have to remember that the animals in our lives, they're living on an accelerated lifespan. Mm-hmm. So the things that are affecting them the same way they're affecting us, it's happening faster for them. So they're succumbing to the same things. And we can control that. It's up to us. It's our behavior. It's not their fault. And for those of us that really love our animals and are willing to step beyond our own comfort systems and acknowledge the truth of this, we can make a big difference in helping to prevent chronic disease and improve the world we live in.
I think there's so many studies now that are linking, maybe in an inflammatory way for some people, but vaccinations in humans with autism, but vaccinosis in pets. And then you're talking about metabolic disorders and even low-level interrupters in GMO foods. There's links between that, and processed food is widely fed to dogs and cats. So it's one of the sources, but there's so many. So you're talking about kitchen sink. Then if we walked into an average room and started assessing the chemical makeup of carpets or the flooring, the walls, the contaminants and the chemicals in it, let alone our food and our water supplies, then we get a bigger picture of what's happening in our pets' bodies and why, like you're saying, shorter lifespan, greater manifestation of disease rates than it was 10 years ago, especially cancers. Then we start understanding that this is not just happening, it's been accumulating. So you're talking about a chronic problem.
Right.
It's ongoing.
And the whole picture, it's insidious. The endocrine disruption issue, basically what these chemicals do is when ingested, they don't necessarily have a profound immediate effect upon the person that consumes them or ingests them, but it has an effect upon the chromosomes of that individual. So it's passed through generations. And we're just starting to see the effects of, I think we will start to see the effects of spot on, flea killers and such, because they're made, imidacloprid and all these different chemicals they use. They show that they don't necessarily harm the host, the mammalian host, but it's pretty well proven that they damage chromosomes and they affect thyroid. And so the offspring, generation, 2 generations down the road, we're going to see problems manifesting.
And you're not saying that anybody's out there, when you talk about ingesting it, it's because of the environment that we're all living in. The pets are walking through it. The pets groom themselves. Right. That's the common way that's happening.
Excellent point. Another good perspective you just brought up is, we walk above what's sprayed on our lawn.
Right.
Our dogs and our cats, they walk with their face in it all the time and then lick it off their paws. Exactly. So they've got really close-up personal exposure to all these things that we just kind of say, oh, they're benign because we don't see immediate results in us, in humans. But I've had I lost count of how many cats I've had in my life, probably in the neighborhood of 20. I've had 8 dogs and such, and I'm just starting to really kind of figure out that, wow, I've been watching them die or suffer from a lot of influences that are the result of bad human behaviors. And I mean, those bad human behaviors also include, conveniences, the quality of ingredients or the lack of quality of ingredients that go into some of the commercial pet foods, byproducts, meals, things that are made from road-killed or euthanized pets, and tumors cut off of animals' carcasses in the slaughterhouse process. The list goes on of what we allow, or what we've allowed as a people, as a species, to go into the mouths of these animals that we now regard as integral members of our families. I mean, and it has to stop. And fortunately, in the audiences that I speak to, and I speak all over the world, I'm seeing a change. There's a paradigm shift. People are getting it. They're taking it to heart.
It's also happening to them.
And it's happening
so when it's
to
happening to them, and they can trace it back to their home environments or to their just environment, whether when we're talking about home, we're talking about living spaces, but we're also talking about the whole world.
Right.
And how difficult it is to find a chemical-free space to share. And when we start looking at how most animal wellness is presented or has been with all of the chemical interventions like vaccinations and synthetic medications, whether they're flea and heartworm and tick medications, and the anti-vaccinations, which we don't get as humans anymore. They're optional. They are annually revaccinated, living shorter lifestyle or lifespans, and it's starting to add up. And then we have to look. We talk about food and water. Our water has fluoride in it and other chemicals that they're not supposed to be metabolizing. Right. So when you're and metabolic disorders is a direct result of those kind of chemical contaminants.
And and a lot of it has to do with the way it's been presented to us. I mean, if there's one thing that America's good at, it's capitalism. Mm-hmm. And we look at vaccinations, and it's a heated controversy. It's a 3-hour subject for me. Right. But you have to also question, why am I giving it? For instance, if you live in the top of a skyscraper in New York City on Manhattan Island, and you have a Persian cat that never steps outside, and you're vaccinating for everything but rabies, mm-hmm. rabies being the only legally required vaccination mm-hmm. in the United States, to my knowledge.
Right.
You have to question, why am I doing it? Just because maybe it will prevent something down the road. And you also have to consider, what are the ramifications of over-vaccinating an animal? In my mind, and like I said, it's a heated subject, if they work as well as they are supposed to, you shouldn't have to give them over and over and over again. I heard that one of the reasons why rabies is given every 2 to 3 years is because the test animals that were used to develop the drug are only kept alive for 2 to 3 years. And therefore the rationale is, well, you better revaccinate. That's what I've heard from a lot of different sources. So it needs to be reconsidered. We need to take responsibility. We can't point fingers toward industry. We can't point fingers toward the neighbor. We can't point fingers, at anybody but ourselves. We're responsible for the health of our animals, nobody else.
Right.
And the trade-off is that we're going to be healthier too.
Right. Well, and I think, when we talk about vaccinations and whatnot, we have an option, because I think that's one area where we go, well, I have to do it because the boarding facility requires these, or my, so-and-so requires that. But there are things out there that we can do, in particular titer testing. Mm-hmm. And that's just not a common thing, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. You've got to, as you said, take charge, lead the discussion, and say, before I do this, I want a titer test to see if it's needed. And even afterwards, do another one and see if it had the effect it was supposed to have.
Right.
Because nothing worse than I'm giving him something and it doesn't work anyway.
Right.
So it's
become informed.
But these discussions weren't necessarily had 5 years ago, 10 years ago,
right.
And now there's so much more information out there, and the demand is, again, I think that connection between human health and manifestation of disease and animal health and medicine. They're synergistic, they're interconnected, and that's why we're getting this out now. There's a platform and a need for a desire for the information. So it's not, like you said, it's not pointing fingers at pet parents who simply were following the direction of their professional veterinarian, who, in a lot of cases, it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But now it's just, there's too many numbers of animals dying from cancer. Number one cause at age 10 of dogs. It's now there's too much mounting evidence that we have to step back from the chemical application or the chemical process and insert something natural in, or at least something to improve balance, because immunity is lost and the whole structure is awry for our animals in terms of wellness.
Yeah, and we have to take it beyond the chemical aspect, the physical aspect of well-being too. I mean, dogs are, you know, I won't mention cats here because, you know, cats have the attitude of, I'm a cat and you're not, you know. But dogs are so linked to their humans. They're emotionally linked. I mean, you're God to them. And, you know, and
My cats are like that with me.
yeah, I mean,
They
the
are.
emotional environment in the house affects them.
Right.
I mean, I get calls, I've gotten calls, people, you know, asking me, what do I give to my dog? He's a nervous wreck. And I just, you know, and, you know, it's my husband doesn't do anything for him. We fight all the time. And, you know, and
Exactly.
you wonder why the bird's pulling out its feathers and
Right.
the cat is chewing its fur out, and it all affects them. And
Right.
we have to look at ourselves in a big way to really bring them into wellness. If the environment isn't well, then the things that live inside of the environment probably aren't going to be well either.
It's interesting how many stereotypes play into that scenario too, like it's just a dog or it's just a cat. And even just the cat-dog relationships, I know it depends on the breed and on the person too, but those incredibly deeply those deep connections where they're mimicking your behavior. Cats can learn to mimic facial expressions or respond to them, whereas it was just thought that dogs could. There's all this study, all this information, how intricately wound they are in our emotions and our physical actions. So how that, like you're saying, if I'm a neurotic mess at home, my animals probably will be too. Or if there's imbalance or unhappiness or untreated stress, or even just behaviorally how I'm responding to them in disciplinary situations, I'm not consistent, or that's where I really have to step back as a pet parent and say, okay, I'm guilty. I need to
Well,
change.
you've also got to look at that home environment. At certain points, I've got young kids. They do things, they leave things around, easy for the dogs to get into. I go to other folks' houses, maybe they're smoking, whatever. All of those things are getting into the systems, and we're talking about smaller bodies, smaller systems that process things much differently. And we don't have the decades and decades of research that we do for the humans on the pets. I mean, it's getting there. But all that stuff factors in. And so, one of my favorite things is a good friend of mine, Denise Fleck, talks about getting down on the floor like your pet and seeing it from their level.
Absolutely.
And it is, and it's interesting because, as you mentioned, whatever's going on in your house, whatever you're reflecting, they're reflecting right back to
And
us.
spend some time trying to imagine how they perceive their world.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be way different than us.
Yeah.
First of all, they live from a state of innocence that we'll never get. They live through the eyes of innocence, and it's different. So when they see us behaving a certain way, they don't get it, and they're confused, and it all it boils back to heal thyself if you want to heal something else. It's part of the big picture. It's part. We're all in this together. The Earth is not just a third rock rotating around the sun. It's a living being covered with all these different organisms that are supposed to work cooperatively toward each other's existence, and we're the square peg in a round hole here. We're the ones that don't fit. And so by looking at what these animals are bringing to us, the lessons, and doing the work that we have to do for them to bring them to wellness by understanding the way they are, we're going to find out a lot of things about ourselves that we're going to want to change. And I guarantee that it's going to work toward this show. Obviously, this whole idea of holistic animal care, it's way bigger than what to give Fido for his skin condition. It's way bigger than what to feed. It's about working with animals to heal the greater planet, the greater biocommunity that lives here, and that's us, the animals, everybody, everything, the foods we eat, the plants, it's all interconnected. And the animals give us a very unique opportunity to...
Well, and I think what we've been talking about here is awareness. Be aware of the environment. Be aware of what your pets are experiencing.
Secondhand smoke.
Yeah, get down, take stock of what's going in and around you, not only in the house, but outdoors, in the backyard, wherever your pets are spending most of their time. Take a look at it and see what things that you can change. So often now we have natural alternatives that we can be using instead of the chemical heavy solutions that we've used in the past. Create a healthier environment, not only for your pets, but you're going to be creating it for yourself as well. And again, it's symbiotic. What we get from our pets is what we give to them. Thanks for joining us here on Natural Pets TV.
Financial and other considerations have been provided by Animal Essentials, Natura Petz Organics, the National Animal Supplement Council, and the Well Dog Place.
Hey pet parents, thanks for joining us. I got to say, we are covering a lot of great topics, but I want to hear from all of you. What things do you want our experts to be talking about, educating and sharing with you? Put that in the comments section down below. In the meantime, if you want more information about my good friend Greg Tilford, you can get that at theanimalherbalist.com or at animalessentials.com, or from my other good friend Heidi Nevala, visit naturapets.com. And as always, you can find us at petworldinsider.com.